Judge Judy was once close to being pushed off television at an age Hollywood quietly labels expired. In 1996, when CBS debated whether a new courtroom show should even make it to air, executives doubted viewers would sit through a woman over 50 who spoke fast, ruled sharply, and had no interest in being likable. They believed authority on TV still needed a softer face, preferably male. What almost no one foresaw was that this same woman would go on to become the highest-paid personality in American television, earning more than many of the industry's most powerful men. Yet the money, impressive as it was, only tells part of the story. Behind the robe and the blunt verdicts stood a life shaped by discipline, strain, and sacrifices that rarely made it into the frame. Long before cameras and contracts, mornings in a Brooklyn apartment followed a strict rhythm. Doors closed on time. Schedules stayed visible. Questions were short and direct. Work was not discussed as a dream, but as a responsibility. Judith Susan Bloom, born on October 21, 1942, grew up in a middle-class Jewish household where punctuality wasn't praised, it was expected. Her father was a dentist, her mother an office manager, and the lesson was simple: finish what needs doing before the day ends. In post-war Brooklyn, hesitation meant being left behind. Judy learned early that clarity mattered, speed mattered, and wandering explanations cost time no one had to spare. That mindset carried her through education without ceremony. She graduated from American University in 1963 and passed the New York State Bar in 1965 after completing law school. Here, her first legal job wasn't glamorous. She worked in corporate law for a cosmetics company, surrounded by contracts and procedures. It was stable, but it felt slow. Decisions didn't land with urgency. Nothing demanded the sharp reflex she had built her life around. When she stepped away from the profession to raise her children, the contrast became even clearer. She didn't belong in spaces where outcomes drifted. So when she returned to law in the early 1970s, she chose family court, a place where time was scarce and decisions mattered immediately. There were no speeches, no grandstanding, just stacks of files and rooms full of exhausted people. Child custody disputes, protection orders, fractured relationships, each case already heavy before the first word was spoken. Judy learned to ask questions that cut through noise. A rambling was interrupted. Avoidance was redirected. The courtroom moved according to the docket, not emotion. Authority didn't come from volume, but from keeping the system moving. By 1982, she was appointed a criminal court judge, and by 1986, supervising judge of Manhattan Family Court. The pressure increased, but the rhythm stayed the same. One room slowing down affected them all. A look could stop a speaker. Silence could correct an answer. Long before television, Judy Sheindlin had already become a mechanism, someone who held order simply by sitting in the chair. The wider world noticed almost by accident. In 1993, a Los Angeles Times article described her not as harsh, but as efficient. A judge who treated time as a public resource. That framing struck a nerve. Readers didn't see a personality. They saw order. 60 Minutes followed. And the camera didn't create a character. It documented a rhythm already in place. Viewers didn't laugh or cheer. They recognized something they felt society was losing. A space where authority meant decisions actually ended things. That recognition sparked the idea that became Judge Judy. When the show premiered on September 16, 1996, the set was built to preserve real courtroom pace. Fixed cameras, bright lighting, no dramatic pauses. Cases moved fast because they had to. The production adapted to Judy, not the other way around. Each taping handled dozens of disputes. No soft resets, no second takes for tone. The same discipline that survived New York courtrooms now filled American living rooms. Success followed relentlessly. For over 2 decades, the show dominated daytime television. At its peak, at nearly 10 million viewers tuned in daily. Judy's annual income climbed into the $40+ million range, and she became a fixture of syndication power. Records followed: longest-running courtroom show, longest-serving TV arbitrator, lifetime achievement honors. Yet the pace never eased. Authority on that set depended on stamina. In 2011, when she suffered a transient ischemic attack and briefly collapsed, it was a reminder that bodies have limits even when systems don't. Behind the scenes, power brought conflict. Lawsuits over spin-offs, contracts, and participation rights unfolded far from the camera. The judge's chair had become an asset, replicated and negotiated like infrastructure. When the show eventually transitioned to streaming with Judy Justice, the rhythm remained unchanged. Distribution shifted, not discipline. Episodes were batched, schedules condensed, endurance tested even further. Her personal life unfolded inside that same tempo. 2 marriages, 5 children, divorces, reunions, blended families, all arranged around demanding schedules. Family didn't slow the work. It adapted to it. Even later, relatives appeared within the show's ecosystem not as sentiment, but as function. People who understood the pace and wouldn't interrupt it. In the end, Judge Judy's legacy isn't just wealth or ratings. It's the proof that authority doesn't need softness to be credible. It needs clarity, discipline, and the courage to end things decisively. But that strength carried a cost: loneliness, physical strain, and a life where rest was always postponed. The question lingers quietly behind the robe. When power is built on relentless rhythm, is there ever enough time left to reclaim what was set aside?